This is Open Parley Live.
I want a warm welcome to Open Parley Live here on Open Parley. My name is Lynette Manzini. Thank you very much for joining us. In today's conversation, we are looking at the Harare City Council again, a very topical issue today because the Harare City Council has been operating without an enterprise resource planning system for over 5 years. They had a contractor who was running this system until 2019 when the contract was withdrawn. In today's conversation, we want to find out the hidden costs. What did this cost the city, the residents, and service delivery in Harare? And now that they are re-engaging the contractor Quill Associates, what do the residents expect? In today's program, I'm joined by the Harare Residents Trust Director, Precious Shumba. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I presume as the residents, you are celebrating now that the system is coming back into play.
There is absolutely nothing as yet to celebrate. For one simple reason that the decision to re-engage with the previous service provider should not have taken more than 5 years. It is something that should have happened even before the termination of the engagement, because they had all the time. So yes, we might be having a billing system coming online, but it does not resolve the question of how much did the city lose during that period when we didn't have a billing system. So what can we celebrate? We can only be celebrating people who are experts at looting public resources. We are not in the business of celebrating mediocrity. As Harare Residents Trust, we are actually very concerned that it has taken them this very long to reach an agreement, as if they are trying to work out some kind of other formulas. They had been using Quill Associates with the group view as the manager in Zimbabwe. They know what that system can provide, but they allowed thieves to take over the system. They allowed massive looting of kinds of funds, and they were not ashamed of that. Even now, when they must be making these decisions without delay, they are dilly-dallying as if they are unsure of what steps to take. It tells you that before they made these arrangements, there must have been behind the scenes negotiations, and we can only speculate that there has been an exchange of money by certain officials, because why do we have to go to Cape Town to engage with a company when our own city parking is an ICT department that has been able to produce packages that have been used to bill motorists and have a consolidated database of people parking in Harare. Why is it not possible for the city of Harare to engage their strategic business unit, city parking, and use their own ICT department? They have people who are competent to deliver on that. Why are they taking our jobs to South Africa?
If I can jump in there, Mr. Shumba, I remember we spoke about this before we came live today, and we were actually talking about the city council being involved in exporting jobs. There are people who have the expertise here, and one of the reasons that they had withdrawn the contract with Quill Associates in 2019 was because, you know, the prices were high and the issues around foreign currency. But for the benefit of our viewers, take us back to 2019. Maybe talk to us about this system. What is this system? Why is it important? And why was that contractor withdrawn?
You might want to recall that ahead of the major disagreement between Quill Associates and the city of Harare, there was the question of the failures by the city of Harare. If you go to the Auditor General's reports for around 2017, 2018, you will pick that the Auditor General raised the concerns around the absence of an asset register on the, or yet it is a module provided on
The system.
on BIQ. The city of Harare was not using that system. Secondly, the bank accounts for the city of Harare were not all on the system. What it meant was there were very few accounts that were disclosed by the city of Harare. And when it came to producing the bank reconciliation and the trial balance for the city of Harare, it was found that it is impossible without all the data from the banking accounts being loaded onto the system. And because the Auditor General was raising serious issues of fraud, serious issues of corruption, serious issues of manipulation of that, the representative or the agent of Quill Associates in Zimbabwe, Group View, made an offer to the city of Harare to say, you are unable to produce a trial balance, a bank reconciliation. We can teach you how to do it. Unfortunately, because the IT department of the city of Harare was all along pretending that they knew how to do it, they realized that if this data was placed on the system, their fraud would be easily detected. So there was a lot of back and forth between the council managers, and Councillor Herbert Gomba was the mayor at that time. And we recall a lot of meetings that were held where there was there were a lot of accusations leveled against the senior executives in council, who were busy trying to manipulate the councillors and flying them to South Africa to meet with this guy who developed the BIQ to try to sway the councillors against the other competent service providers. We were waiting for them to do it properly, but at the end of the day, this disagreement between Group View and the city of Harare led the council managers. You remember that one of the major issues around in 2019 was that Harare Water, despite it being a central function within the city of Harare of water supplies and sewer, they were not on BIQ. And you would want also to recall that the town clerk now, Engineer Chisango, was the director of Harare Water at that time. Their management had a problem. I don't know what was the problem, but they did not want their data to be on BIQ. So there was a lot of like conflict between council executives. So our suspicion is that probably when he became the town clerk, the same suspicions were carried over and brought to the city of Harare main. So there were so we think that they have been dragging their feet in terms of what BIQ can do. So initially, the argument raised by the IT department of the city of Harare was the lack of disclosure of their interests.
Mhm.
When they were requested to allow Group View to train them, they agreed, and they even made a request for an upgrade of BIQ.
Mhm.
Once the order for the upgrade had been approved in council,
Mhm.
then these guys went to the town clerk and other managers and lobbied councillors to say the cost of the upgrade was beyond the capacity of the council to pay. So they started raising these issues against BIQ instead of admitting that Harare Water had to be on the BIQ.
Mhm.
All bank accounts of the city of Harare had to be on the BIQ,
Mhm.
and the asset register had to be on the BIQ.
It was going to be a big expose.
Exactly. So instead of dwelling on the critical elements of the unused modules on the BIQ, the city of Harare deliberately held back full utilization of BIQ modules. I think at that time they had around 21 modules, but the city of Harare was using around 15, 16 modules, and they were not using all the modules. So this is what the Quill Associates Agent Group View raised with the city of Harare, but they gave an excuse and convinced the council management to say we have entered a deadlock over the fees, the annual fees, over the upgrade. Yet there is evidence that it was the city of Harare that placed an order for the update. So to us, we believe that during that time, when they brought in Sage, there has been a lot of looting of council funds, particularly the utilization of the suspense account. You know, in accounting, when they are dealing with the issues to do with the money, someone sends money to city of Harare, but they have not specified the specific cost centers where the money should go. So that money, by any institution or bank, it is kept in the suspense account until such a time that the monies have been specifically allocated. But this has been the cash cow of the thieves in the finance department, where they have created extra accounts that were being allegedly managed by some of the managers and the directors who have now left the council, some of them. So if this information was on the BIQ, everyone was going to see the massive looting that has been taking place, but they didn't. So over the years, we estimate that because of the use of this small system, they were unable to have a consolidated picture of the revenues coming into the councils. That is why there was a new word that was being used by people looting council funds of swiping. What they meant by swiping was that they would go to a company that owes huge amounts of money. These guys would go and negotiate, get paid in US dollars privately, but then they come to the system because it was now easy to manipulate it. Then they wipe off the debt or reallocate the amounts to other people. That is why you would find that during the absence of BIQ, residents, companies, and other departments were getting so inflated bills that everyone complained.
I remember that, Mr. Shumba, you would go and offset your bill,
Yeah.
and then before you know it, it's double. As if you're
Exactly.
being penalized for paying your bill.
Exactly. So what has been happening is that the more you pay,
The more you're billed.
the more you are billed.
Mhm.
So the amounts billed to residents who were like dormant over the years is very low. But to those who consistently tried to clear their debts, the bills multiplied, trebled, and only when some went to the council would their bills be corrected. But it is a deliberate system where the officials know that the majority of the people are ignorant or are not concerned, or they lack this kind of attitude to go and ask and question
Yes.
the billing system. So a lot of people are disgruntled. They are very angry
Yes.
that their bills continue to multiply. Yet every month they religiously pay. But at council, it appears like you are being punished for trying to settle your bills. But those who have not paid for a long time, their bills are stagnant. They are not growing. It shows you that the system has been manipulated for a very long time. So if we are to start, we need to start from somewhere, and it means that we must start from where people can afford to pay, because this is compounded the budgeting processes where people raise issues, make submissions, make legitimate demands, but the council deliberately holds on to dysfunctional systems. It is not like they don't know what needs to be done, but it is because it is their cash cow. They use the system for their personal benefit.
Mr. Shumba, when we talk about council, there are technocrats there, and then we have the councillors who are there to be representing the citizens. What is the role of the councillors in all this? From 2019, did they really stand on the side of the residents?
Councillors have always abandoned the people. The pretense that they are coming because they were voted into office. Yes, that is the intention, that when we elect people into office, we are electing people knowing and believing that they would be our representatives, playing the representative role. They would play the oversight role, that they would be able to ask questions on behalf of the residents, and ensuring that the technocrats, including the town clerk, delivers on council resolutions and decisions, plans and policies. But we have noted that over the time, the oversight role of councillors has been weakened because of their inexperience, their lack of appreciation or understanding of the council, the local government system. And the third role that councillors must play, besides oversight, besides the representative role, they also make policies. That policy making function has become very meaningless. We don't derive much value in them being in council, because when they go and sit there, we do not have engineers as councillors. We do not have accountants as councillors. We do not have legal practitioners. We do not have other maybe social scientists to assist in terms of research. We do not have even like teachers, your health personnel, sitting as councillors. So you are looking at technocrats from different fields, having been in council for above 10 years, and they are going to be making policies on behalf of the citizens. So you have the councillors ignorant. But what do? They are given voluminous documents. They are encouraged and given inducements, like ahead of every decision. Councillors are taken away for workshops. Councillors are offered a lot of other opportunities to sell stands. They have the offer letters. They have a lot of other opportunities. They are given inside information about where the next big opportunity to make money is. And they become like your agents. They are agents of briefcase companies. And the councillors, if you read through the minutes, you will see that the oversight, representative, and the policy-making functions have been largely compromised.
So what I'm hearing from you is that they're just there to rub a stamp, whatever policies are passed by the technocrats.
That's exactly what I am talking about. That when we have our councillors, we are expecting them to be the voice of the ratepayers from their respective communities. And when they are going out for like a workshop, for a meeting, for a council committee meeting, for a full council meeting, they need to sit down with their residents, a representative sample, to consult them, to hear their views, so that when they go back into committee, when they go into full council, they must reflect and echo the thinking of the ratepayer. Unfortunately, we are seeing, maybe it is the challenge is around the induction process, what they are told by the Ministry of Local Government and Public Works. It would appear that they are told that you are just there as the policymakers. The technocrats must do the bulk of your work. So the councillors sometimes behave like they are employees of the council, and yet they must be representatives of the people, playing oversight. These councillors, our expectation would be that whenever there is an expenditure, the councillors must be able to gather data so that they provide alternative views to say your submission is inadequate because in terms of research, past experience, or case studies from other local authorities, this is what has worked. Why is it that our councillors appear to be so ignorant? Yet when you engage individual councillors, they have gone to school. Some of them are learned and they really understand issues. But when they are in council committees, they pretend to be daft, yet they will be led to where the officials really want them to be.
Let me hold you on that thought. In case you're just joining us, you are tuned into Open Pali Live here on Open Pali. My name is Lynette Manzini, and here in the studio with me is the Harare Residence Trust Director, Mr. Precious Shumba, and he's just talking to us about council business, especially the billing system. Council has been running without a billing system for the past 5 years, since 2019. He was just giving us a recap of what happened before the contractor. The contract was withdrawn for Quill Associates, but council now has re-engaged the same contractor, and now we want to find out what the residents think about this latest move. But before I go back to Mr. Shumba, we want to play a video of Minister Chitandru, the then local government minister. He had gone to council, and he was highlighting some of the reasons why they refused to approve the city budget back in March, and the ERP system was one of the reasons. Let's watch this short clip.
Firstly, I just want to put things in context, in the sense that there was a blueprint which was launched by His Excellency the President on the 1st of November. And this blueprint outlines issues which, were being and are being taken into consideration in the approval process of the budget for all the 92 local authorities. The 10 provincial, 10 teams were put together to review the budgets of each and every local authority, and these have been thoroughly reviewed with a detailed report of each and every local authority in terms of the strengths, the weaknesses, and issues in which they are not compliant with the blueprint. Current budget, we had very constructive meeting with the city of Harare in discussing the areas, the reasons why the budget were not approved. Without going into too much detail, the main reasons really are centered around the lack of audited accounts, whereby they have not been audited account for the years from 2017, and the budget did not quite contain the roadmaps to ensure that the issues related to the lack approval or auditing of those accounts were addressed, and then also the absence of ERP, enterprise resource system, for the inflow collection. We discussed it. We as a ministry, we did not mince our words that without coming up with an enterprise resource system, a computerized resource system, the city of Harare is not going anywhere. That is put in place.
So that was the then Minister of Local Government, Minister Chitando, and he was saying that without this system, the council is going nowhere. And now I'm thinking, why are we even playing this clip? Because you have already, really gone into the issues. Now that they have re-engaged, Quill Associates. When we posted the advert for this program earlier on, there were some questions. Others were asking, why have we not put this to tender? Why are we going back to the same contractor instead of allowing other organizations to bid? What was the best way forward in this case?
I think the best way was to have a competitive bid where different companies bid for this job. Mm-hmm. And the best was supposed to be given the contract. And we think that while BIQ has done well with the Bulawayo City Council, and they had done very well with the city of Harare, the fact that BIQ is a South African company raises the important question about our retention of key jobs in Zimbabwe. Why are we exporting our jobs to a South African company when we could possibly give more preference to our local companies? Our local companies would include our own city park. City parking is 100% owned by the city of Harare. Mm-hmm. They could have made a council resolution to require them to produce a competent system to cater for all the billing requirements, asset register, and even the bookkeeping requirements, the general ledger, valuation. We believe that it was going to keep the money in Zimbabwe. And if possible, if City Parking has succeeded in putting a system for their own vehicle billing and other things, why are we not giving them this new challenge so that if they succeed in putting in place a good billing system, they could be invited by other local authorities to build the capacities of other local authorities such that they have internal capacity for their own ITs. But we seem to be favoring companies that we believe that their selection is fraught with a lot of pitfalls, like a lack of transparency. For all we know, the city's procurement division has been accused of massive corruption in the past, where they inflate the cost of services and goods from external contractors. And we then suspect that for that decision to be made, someone probably traded off something. And we believe that the cost to the ratepayer is beyond the capacity of the city of Harare. And when we compare with other competent service providers, we believe that they should have allowed more bidders and selected the best in a transparent and accountable manner. And that means that they should have allowed Quill Associates to compete with others on the market, and allowed even City Park to make a bid as their own company to bid for this job, because the more amount of money that we take to South Africa, we are reducing the capacity of Zimbabwe's own industry to sustain themselves. Because if we are taking, for example, if we take out 20 million US dollars to South Africa, how many jobs will that 20 million create in Zimbabwe? So we need to think around that, because a lot of people are unemployed, yet they are highly qualified and competent, and they have a track record that everyone can vouch for.
Yes, we have so much talent, other people living for greener pastures in other countries, yet we are exporting jobs here. You spoke about the hidden cost that the resident has to incur. You spoke about the corruption, you spoke about the billing system and how people were actually being penalized for paying their bills because this system was absent. Can we, is there an estimate of how much, the city has lost to corruption, to whatever was happening behind the scenes without this enterprise resource system?
It's very difficult to reach an estimate, because even the city of Harare does not know how many properties they are billing for residential in the high density areas, low density areas, and medium residential areas. And they do not know the number of industries that they are billing. So in the absence of that critical data, it means that even the monthly incomes of the city cannot be estimated, because they have not been able to give that critical information, except to say every time we meet them, they are highlighting that they are owed huge amounts of money, but they are not admitting that the figures they are releasing are based on a faulty foundation. They are based on estimated billing and not accurate. But we can safely say that every month the city of Harare might be losing an estimated 250 million US dollars through corruption, through fraud, through unbuilt properties, through probably mainly through corruption. and there is a tendency to inflate figures of cost of services and goods. And imagine people delivering goods, but they are not registered on the system. People delivering, companies, contractors be delivering water treatment chemicals, but there is no record of how much chemicals are being used per day and how much are being stored. There's no record of that. It means that the 2.5 million US dollars that they say is the monthly cost of water treatment chemicals might be exaggerated in our view, because there is no record of the storage of the remaining water treatment chemicals after they are used per day, because they are giving us a figure per month, but they are not telling us their storage system.
This is so depressing, Mr. Shumba. As a Harare resident myself, I can go for 4 days with no water. And if you don't have a car, you can't go to get a water from the nearest borehole if you don't have a borehole where you stay. And if there's electricity, it's a double tragedy right here in the city. But what can the residents do? Because I'm sure the residents should have a voice in this. I know you represent them. What course of action can the residents take? Because it cannot be business as usual. There needs to be an overhauling of the system.
You see, one of the major weaknesses of the oversight role by the citizen, by the media, by parliament, and other key stakeholders is the frequency at which the residents at the community level can meet and deliberate on their own public affairs. We have seen that a lot of people, if you invite them to meetings to discuss, like the representation by their councillor, people come in with partisan lenses, and they don't really focus on the issues, but rather on the parties. So when they are meeting, people concentrate on trivia instead of focusing on the substantive issues about their well-being, about their service delivery priorities, about what would change their life. So what residents should initially do as a first step is to be able to trust each other and have confidence that when they meet, they can deliberate on 1 or 2 issues per meeting. Every month, if they can have one meeting and deliberate on a particular issue, and the outputs of those meetings must be pursued to engage at the ministries of government, departments of government, and agencies of government, including local authorities, including bringing together the councillors. Once the residents realize that they have the real power in the governance of their public affairs, they will not go and beg for mafufu from councillors, from politicians, and treat them like they are the bosses. The residents are the bosses if they know how to use their power. That is why, as Harare Residents Trust and colleagues in the combined Harare Residents Association and other civil society organizations, the thrust has been to educate and empower the citizens to have agency, to fight and articulate their issues, to walk into offices, demand answers and justifications. Unfortunately, a lot of people, particularly when they don't know their kind of power they hold, they expect to be paid to gather for a meeting concerning their public affairs. They expect to be given transport allowance simply for attending a meeting. So a lot of people think when they gather, they are doing organizations a favor by attending. Yet in reality, It is the duty and obligation of every citizen to be concerned about their waste management, their water supply, their sewer systems, their street lighting, the representation by the members of parliament and councillors, the conduct of public officials. How are they conducting themselves? How are they treating the people when they visit their offices? How are they receiving public health services? So we are encouraging the residents to simply have the courage to ask questions, to simply have the courage to become part of a local community group, to share experiences, to share knowledge, and where possible, to take actions like doing petitions. Holding street demonstrations is also very ideal, but we have also seen that the authorities clamp down heavily on the public demonstrations. So the main way of showing disgruntlement is probably by making petitions and being able to sit and discuss public interest issues. Sometimes we also pursue public interest litigation in the courts to force like access to information issues.
Okay, and now that they, they are now working on what do you call, installing the modules, the ERP system. Were the residents in the know? Were you in the know that this is happening? Were you carried along, or is it something that you learned from the media?
On the social media platforms, councillors hide information. Even when you engage officials, they hide information. They do not disclose information. So the BIQ issue, we have kept this debate alive. We have kept this demand on the table that until they have put in place a transparent, accountable, and really functional enterprise resource plan, they should not try to bully residents to pay for services that have not been rendered. And still we demand that the ERP must not be a huge burden on the ratepayers in terms of its cost. And we expect them to adhere to provisions of the Public Finance Management Act, the Urban Councils Act, and in particular, the Regional Town and Country Planning Act, where it comes to illegal activities that have gone on to be connected to our sewer, to our water supplies, yet they are not on the council database. That is a tragedy. We expect that the council discloses and shares information, not as a way of simply keeping us in check, but rather to treat us as strategic partners for the growth and development of the city.
As you were just speaking, I feel so disappointed, especially with the councillors, to say they're supposed to be our eyes and ears on the ground, but yet they are hiding this critical information. And I hope that this is going to change going forward. Like you mentioned, residents need to start meeting and discussing, these critical issues, because these are their issues. And if they cannot stand up for themselves, clearly the councillors are not doing so. Now that this system is here, what are your expectations as residents?
Our expectation, major expectation, is that the system must be fully utilized. All the modules that are on the BIQ have to be fully utilized. It must be transparent. It must be accountable. The bills that are currently on individuals, households, I think as a starting point, they should be reduced by at least 50%.
Okay, reduce them by 50%.
Reduce the current bills on the people's bills by 50% to cover for the non-provision of critical services like waste management. Waste management constitute a huge chunk of the bills. Then there is water consumption. In some instances, people do not get their water, and the council is not sending its meter readers to have accurate meter readings. So we want them to carry out an exercise so that they have accurate meter readings at the start of the re-establishment of the BIQ going forward, so that they do not give us estimated bills again.
And you say that you want the system to be transparent. What are you saying exactly? The residents are able to access the information?
When a system is transparent, it gives people peace. People have no reason to doubt something that is transparent.
Definitely.
When people have doubts, have unanswered questions, and continue to speculate, it tells you that the system is not transparent. Where the system clearly tells you the dates and the times, the cashier who received your money, the method you used when you settled your household bill, and it is reflecting on your household bill, and you get that bill, you don't have questions. You simply pay and you are happy. You walk away satisfied that the payment I made in Mount Pleasant for my Glenora property is reflected without delay. I will have confidence in that system. That is the expectation of the people. So when we are talking of transparency, we are simply saying the system must speak of itself without anyone explaining anything. Once you get a lot of explanations about a system, it means it is not tackling the real issues affecting the people. The system on its own must speak to the needs and expectations of the people, such that without explanation, you can open anyone's account and get the accurate bills. Where they have raised that they don't have water for 2 or 3 months, you expect that they don't get a charge or a bill for water consumption, because it actually reflects and responds to the people's reports.
No, most definitely. You spoke about, as we round up, you said that you're expecting council to slash by half the bills, but yet they have already contracted debt collectors to go out and get money from the residents.
The debt collectors will always face a crisis of legitimacy. Our councillors have not come to consult the residents on how best to address the issues. It means that they have also jumped the gun. Our expectation is that before a major decision is taken by the council in terms of their debt management, they must consult the people. We voted them into office. The workers who work in the council work for the ratepayers. They work for us. And when we ask questions, they must answer. They must provide justifications. So we are not expecting them to bully the ratepayers. We are expecting them to engage us as equal strategic partners, not where they impose their decisions and policies without involving us. So the demand or the request for a 50% cut must apply to all the residents from covering the period when they did not have an actual billing system. We know that people were getting inflated bills, and when we engaged with the ratepayers, they showed us meter readings, water meter readings that are not yet reached. It means that these officials have to clean up the system, and the cleaning up must be inclusive, not targeting people who come and complain, but cover every ratepayer, every property, such that we start off from an accurate foundation of billing, not an estimated foundation.
Harare is in a mess, Mr. Shumba, and it needs to be cleaned up. But
true.
unfortunately, we have run out of time. But I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
There you have it, viewers. That was Mr. Precious Shumba, the Harare Residence Director, Harare Residence Trust Director, and he was just talking to us about some of the issues that are happening in council. But the word that he is leaving with us today is, as residents, we must take it upon ourselves to meet and discuss the critical issues within our city. This is our city, and we are responsible. We should take up the responsibility of ensuring that the city council is running in a transparent manner, and we're involved in this process because these are local issues. These are local governance issues. Let's be involved in them. Until next time, my name is Lynette Manzini. Goodbye.